Do you remember this that we have done in the class? This that we did in the class?
Yes.
Okay, then we refresh quickly and then jump up to the other topic. Okay, the constraint optimization problem usually have two parts, as you know, the objective function and set of constraints. The objective function usually used for specifies what the agent cares about and what wants to optimize, such as that we have done in the class for the fence that the people gonna build a fence for any reason and they want to know the dimensions, how it is going to be realized. And we have, of course, some data to solve this. Therefore, we have to create the objective functions, the given parameters that we are existing in hands, and then we are creating our model. Consumers in this direction trying to satisfy and maximize their given material or parameters in this direction. Let's say the manager cares about rising profits, reducing costs, and increasing power. And these are the most important part of the businesses, which is profit oriented. And then constraint, of course, can be defined as the limits placed on the resources available to the agent. An example is can be given. The manager's budget is supposed to be 1 million and the consumer's income is 3,000. In this direction, of course, we are trying to create the budget constraint to see how it is going to be realized because we have the limitation results of this income. The objective function, of course, concentrated to this model and in a given scenario supposed to be the food and clothing is the, of course, existing market structure and given products. And with these products, we are trying to maximize or optimize our utility by using this given products with our income that we are holding in a hand. And results of this, we are, of course, creating our model. And the model, of course, as I said to you, is to maximize our satisfaction by using this food and clothing, which is supposed to be the function of the satisfaction. And of course, the objective function here is supposed to be product price for food and the quantity which is going to be used in this direction, food, plus product price for clothing, and of course the quantity of clothing that we are going to buy should be less or equal than income that we are holding in the hand. With this given example, we have linear equation and we are building this linear equation regarding to this food and clothing. And then, of course, it is illustrated here with the budget constraint or budget equation, which is linear with PFF plus PCC is equal to I. And for being able to estimate the contribution to this model, we have to find, of course, the utility function, so-called the indifference curve. And indifference curve should be tangent to this curve. And it can be any places on this curve tangent to this budget constraint, and we will then maximize our utility. As you know, it is depending to the people's preferences regarding to buy more food, less clothing, or buy more clothing and less food, or equally we can distribute this and create this budget constraint and of course the utility function together. If it is below on this curve and it is not tangent, and this means then we don't satisfy and we don't maximize our utility. As you are seeing, it is less than this budget constraint, and this means that we have more income to buy more food and clothing. Therefore, we have to find the best possible combination in this direction for creating our model. And if it is higher than this budget constraint, again, we are not able to satisfy our utility. And we have, of course, more food and cloth combination, which is not desirable. We are not able to buy that much because our budget is not that much. Therefore, when we are putting in order to these utility functions and, of course, the indifference curve and budget constraints, S0 is less than S1 and S1 is less than S2. And here, as you are observing, S1 is the best possible option because it is tangent to the budget constraint, and of course, it is uh, giving the consumer, or so-called the demand optimal bundle. Another example we have done also, suppose the manager of a big company wants to decide the firm's advertising to increase their, of course, market. And the budget is 1 million, and it is either going to be to the TV or radio. TV, as you know, it is audio, and radio is only the listening, only the voice. Therefore, we have to determine which advertising will be the best possible option in this direction. And here we have the again the problem to maximizing beer's distribution and market by using this television and radio transfer for enlarging and increasing this product in the market. And the subject and, of course, the objective function here is again the price of this television advertising and the market amount for these televisions, plus price for the radio sending, and of course the amount of the radio sendings is going to be equal or less than $1 million, which we are planning to distribute for this model. And here again, given different combinations, and as you are observing, TV advertising is higher than, sending advertisings to the TV channels, increasing and enlarging these sales regarding to this given scenario. The equilibrium is the other point for analyzing the microeconomical models. As you know, the equilibrium analysis is directly related with these figures, which we are very familiar to this supply demand, or as we exercised before this budget constraint and utility functions, we are putting into this instruction and trying to analyze the model regarding to this given table and parameters. Here it is the quantity given, and of course the price of this quantity, and we have the supply curve. And when we put the demand curve, we are understanding at the equilibrium point, we have the, of course, market where it is supposed to be balanced. The price equilibrium and the quantity equilibrium is, of course, can be illustrated regarding to this given information. Do you listening? Are you following? Yes, supposed to be.
Yes, sir.
If you have any question, you will ask me. And the other one is the comparative statistic analysis, where the equilibrium states of a system before change in the exogenous variables to equilibrium the state after the change. And here, as you are observing, the coffee beans is supposed to be in the market, and supply and demand curve is given in this scenario. And if the new supply curve is realized, this means something happens, either the price reduced, isn't it? Or the amount of the product is enlarged, and this can cause some more enlargement in this market, which is increasing the demand capacity and, of course, enlarging the welfare of the consumer, where you are observing P star to double star. It is increasing the welfare from P1, let's say, to P2, and Q1 to Q2 for the consumer preferences, for the consumer utility. It is enlarged. The welfare of the consumer is enlarged because the price is reduced and the amount of the quantity is enlarged in this given analyze. And another example can be given regarding to this budget constraint that we have done in the former example. The PFF plus PCC is equal to I, which is of course food and clothing again concentrated, and food price and the cloth price is supposed to be multiplied with the amount of the food and amount of the clothing should be equal or less than to this example for being able to interpret our data. And of course, function for these two products will be equal to this satisfaction where it is intersect and of course tangent to this budget constraint, and of course creating this satisfaction regarding to this indifference curve and budget constraint tangent position. And if it is less, then we know it is not desired. And if it is, of course, shifted below, this means either our budget is decreased or our price is supposed to be increased. As you know, S0 is higher than S1 and I0 is higher than I1. As I mentioned to you, here there is some income decrease, and of course, either it can be realized because of the price changes, which is supposed to be increase and reduce our purchasing capacity in this example. This kind of interpretation can be done in these uh, tools that we are using for analyzing the economical problems. When we are looking to the limits, there is, of course, positive and normative analysis. The positive analysis can explain what has happened due to an example policy, economic policy, sorry, and can predict what might happen due to an economy policy. So you have one policy, let's say we are planning to increase 10% the taxes or reduce the 10% the taxes, and expected income increase or decrease will be reflected to the economy regarding to these tax policies, which is going to be increased and decreased. This is positive analysis. Then you are going to ask what has happened. Then you are going to exercise the results regarding to this economical uh, implications of these policy changes. And normative analysis is an analysis of what should be done here. Then, of course, a little bit different than the first one is what has happened, and here what should be done to see the differences between these examples. Should we increase income equally rather than focus on economic efficiency because we are concentrating to the welfare economics, let's say, and we want to do something to enlarge the welfare as we are exercising in currently the COVID-19, the coronavirus viruses that affecting the small, medium-sized enterprises especially, and we have to do something for creating some sustainable, of course, uh, economy or let's say income to these mid class where they are exercising problem results of this um, res recession and demand decrease results of this pandemic. This kind of activities, of course, questioning what should be done to do or overcome this problem. And the former one is what has happened, as we are already exercise results of any change in the policy. Therefore, as you see, positive is concentrated to something which is already affected and done, and normative analysis is already happened, but we want to do something to change it. Therefore, these two analyses also very important for analyzing and of course uh, helping hand for the decision making process in the economical problems and analysis. Okay, the first PowerPoint is stopped, finished. Then I will go to the next part of our presentation. If you are here, is okay? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes, Hocam.
Okay, then let me.
Sir, I have to tell you, there is some students complaining about not being able to join the course.
Yes, yes, I already accepted.
Ah,
They are
okay.
now. Is okay now. Is
Welcome to
okay
the
now.
classroom, Irene. I think
Thank
it's it.
you, Jam.
You're welcome. Okay. Now you are able to see my second presentation. Are you seeing the presentation? PowerPoints?
Yeah, which one? Where are you?
Demand and supply, demand and supply. Do you see or you don't see?
We don't.
Or you don't?
Yes,
Okay,
we
let's
don't.
Sir,
you don't.
the presentations list is there, but it only shows the folder. It doesn't show the slides or anything.
But former you already seen.
Yes,
The form
it only shows the folder, nothing else.
you didn't see the presentation that I have done.
No.
We were not seen, but we are following from our phones.
I don't know why it is so. It's interesting.
Then you can see from the group. Ah, we send the picture of what we are seeing in the group. You can check from there.
But you should see this. You are not able to see this.
We can't. We are not seeing.
Ah, now I
Demand
see.
and
Yes,
Now
yes.
I see.
Now we can. Now we can.
but the
Yes.
former one you already seen, isn't it?
No, we were not seeing also that one, but it's okay. We understood everything.
But you should see. This is the problem. Now you are seeing.
Yes, now we can see.
Okay, market. If I'm
Supply.
going to enlarge it, you are able to see all still.
Try. We don't know. It's now small.
You don't see it.
Now we are seeing, but it's small. You can make
But
it like if it,
I enlarge it. I enlarge it. You
but
don't
we are
see it.
seeing it small.
You're seeing small.
Yes. أنا ما أحسب بس مين هكذا رقم افتح
But I enlarge it. I don't know. Probably there is a problem.
I can
Anyway,
see it.
okay. I will send it this also to you. Okay. Do you
Okay.
listen? Okay. As you know, the market supply function and of course demand is the two important part of the economics. Before jumping to the elasticities, we have to exercise this quickly. And then next lecture, next week on Wednesday, we will start continuously to do the elasticities and finish it as much as possible to jump up to the utility. Okay, the market supply function tells, of course, as you know, how the quantity of goods supplied by the sum of all producers in the market and depend on various factors. As you know, it is mostly concentrated to the amount of the wages, price, and other things, which is, of course, concentrated in the production operation process, the factors of production that we are using, especially in the uh, supply side of the economy. And the supply curve plots the aggregate quantity of good that will be offered for sale at different prices. And quantity is the function of the price, as you know, supply curve. And the supply curve for wheat for the Canadian market is given here, is supposed to be a linear equation, and of course is started a little bit negative price and goes to the positive, as you know, after the 0.15 quantity amount realized, and is of course a linear equation, and of course uh, proportional to the price and quantity. As you know, supply is always proportionally realized with the prices. The quantity of good offered increases when the price of this good increases because it is linear equation, and it is of course positively related to the price because supplier always getting better off when the price is increased, and opposite is realized for the demander. When the price is decreasing, we are of course getting better off and of course enlarging our welfare when this is happens. The supply curve shifts when factors other than own price change. If the change increases the willingness of producers to offer the good at the same price, the supply curve shift right. This is the normal expectation. And if the change decreases the willingness of producers to offer good at the same price, the supply curve shift left because it is reduction. And the other one is, of course, enlargement, and of course, causing more to the, causing more profit to the supplier. A move along the supply curve for a good can only be triggered by a change in the price of that good. And a shift in the supply curve for a good can be triggered by a change in any other factors, a change that affects the producer's willingness to offer the good. And if we give the simplest equation for this supply is illustrated P plus 0.05 R. R is here is the rainfall, which is, of course, as you know, in the agricultural sector, very popular for enlarging and increasing the supply. As you are observing here, if we suppose the price is 2 quantity supplied without rainfall and quantity supplied with rainfall is going to be 3, as you know, it is then of course causing 2.15. Rainfall is increasing and supply curve shifting to the right side. And rainfall, if it is 4, then as you know here, Q is supposed to be P plus 0.4 and can be illustrated on the graphic. As you see, the supply without rain and supply with rain, then rainfall causing some supply enlargement. Therefore, rainfall is, of course, positive attitude and positive impact to the economy, especially in the agricultural sector. When we look to the demand curve, quantity good offered increases when the price of this good decreases because consumers always preferring lower prices and of course getting more and more if the price reduced. Shift can be caused on the figures. Increases in demand are shown by the shift to right, and in the demand curve, this could be caused by a number of factors, including a rise in income. Because if the rise in income is realized, this will of course cause some shift to the demand curve to the right and enlarge the amount of the goods and services consumers able to buy. This is welfare increase. As you observe here, either the price reduced or the income increased here. You are following this PowerPoints now? Yes or no? You here listening me?
Sir, we are following, but presentation,
Yes.
seeing
don't
the
see.
first page. Bir şey var ya
First
bunda
page.
duruyor. Vallahi takılıyor hocam. Problem
Allah.
var. Neyse.
I don't know really why it is so. Then if I go like this, is moving.
Now it is moving, yes.
Okay, then I have to follow here because
magazine's publisher because there is a guarantee that you are going to be paid this money and then the 12 months you're going to buy this product. So
okay.
on the other hand, it is possible to observe in the market, let's say that the
What is this?
buy
Is somebody is listening something? Who is listening something? Are you here? Do you listening me?
Listening.
Because I am hearing somebody else. You are listening somebody else?
No.
But it seems like this. Okay, then as you see here, the price reduction increase the quantity demanded, and of course income increase is also shifting the demand curve to the right. And when we are looking to the market equilibrium is of course realized where the equilibrium price and quantity intersect each other, and demand and supply curve will become in balance. Here we are having this market for cranberries. The QD is 500 minus 4P. As you know, 4 here is the slope of this curve, and QS is minus 100 plus 2P, where P is the cranberry price and Q is the amount of the quantity in barrel per year. When we are finding the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, as you know, we are equalizing these two equations and finding the price first, which is 100, and then put this price to the equation for supply or demand for the equilibrium. And then you have again the quantity, demand or supply is again 100. The price is 100, quantity 100, then we can illustrate the market as it is like here, 100 and 100. And intersection points, we have to give 0 for price and Q to finding the price for the supply and demand. And here is 125 for the demand and 50 for the supply. Then we have the intersection points 100 to 100 for these cranberry markets. This market equilibrium, of course, can be increase or decrease regarding to the demand capacity, and this demand capacity and of course supply capacity is heavily affected from the elasticity problem. As you know, if the elasticity is vertical and of course inelastic, it is creating much problem to the suppliers, and it is of course price inelastic. If it is horizontal parallel to the x-axis, then it is of course infinitive elastic. Therefore, this excess problem or surplus problem is concentrated to the elasticity, which we are going to exercise in the next lecture. As you are observing here, this is shifted to the higher level because the demand is probably higher, and results of this, then we are enlarging the demand and shifting the price to the higher, or we are shifting the price higher, and of course the supply side is enlarged and increased, and of course shifting the market equilibrium to the higher level. Therefore, this kind of analysis we are going to exercise, but especially in the next 2 chapters, we are concentrating to the demand side of the economy and then to the producer side, to the supply side. Therefore, we will exercise the utility function very heavily and trying to understand how this utility function is affecting and changing the market equilibrium regarding to this given analysis. As you know, the elasticity is the, of course, percentage change in quantity divided to the percentage change in prices will be multiplied with price of the former years divided to the quantity of the former years. This will then gives us for the demand elasticity price. And elasticity is of course, as you know, delta Q over delta P is the slope of the equations, which is in the supply and demand curves, usually illustrated with the intercept and coefficient of the price. Therefore, slope in the ratio of absolute change in the quantity and price will be equal to delta Q over delta P, and elasticity is the ratio of relative changes in quantity and prices depending to this market structure. If the price goes up, of course, this is affecting negatively consumer welfare and positively producer gain. Therefore, we will exercise this elasticity in the following chapter. As you are understanding, elasticity is very important if it is vertical or horizontal, and if the elasticity price is equal to 0, which is supposed to be perfectly inelastic demand, quantity demanded is completely insensitive to the price changes. if the elasticity between -0 and 0, so -1 and 0, it is supposed to be inelastic, which we are using, and quantity demand is supposed to be relatively insensitive to change in price or to price changes. And if the elasticity is equal to -1, then unitary elastic demand can be changed. Usually we are using this inelastic demand, which is between -1 and -0. And if it is above -1, it is an elastic demand, and it is expected to be parallel to the horizontal axis. As I said to you, if it is -1 and infinitive, it is elastic demand, and quantity demand is relatively sensitive to the change in prices, which is very, very sensitive. It is affected and change, and this is then, of course, affecting the shape of this demand and supply curves very heavily, and affecting, of course, the equilibrium positions and Couplet theorem that we are going to exercise in this course probably. You will understand how it is affecting and changing the market structure, and when we are going to intervene to the market, and when we don't have to intervene to the market, we will exercise with this elasticity examples and elasticity applications. And if the elasticity is infinitive, 0 minus infinity, perfectly elastic, we call, as I said to you, as much as it's horizontal axis parallelly, then is infinitively elastic. An increase in price results in quantity demand increase to infinity. As we are giving an example here, QD is R minus BB. Here, minus B is delta Q over delta P. A and B positive constant. P is the price. As I said to you, minus B is delta Q over delta P is the slope, and A over B is the choke price. Therefore, we are applying this to the elasticity of demand price, or demand elasticity of price. Then delta Q over P, delta P multiplied P over Q is equal to minus B, P over Q, which is the choke price. Then will give us this elasticity for the demand. So for a linear demand curve, slope supposed to be constant, and elasticity falls from 0 to minus infinity along the demand curve. Then example given here, Q is equal to 400 minus 10P, which is again delta Q over delta P. And at P is supposed to be 30, then Q will be 100. Then elasticity here will be minus 10 multiplied 30 over 100, because the former price and quantity is estimated, and elasticity is minus 3, which is elastic demand is here concentrated and, of course, realized. As you know, the midpoint here is the half of it, A over the choke price, and if it is 2B, then is, of course, as you see, elastic region. Here is the inelastic region. After this elasticity, -1 is below and between 0 and -1 elastic. And if it is above -1 and infinitive elastic to infinity, minus infinity, is elastic region for the linear equation. Constant elasticity demand curve is supposed to be, again, QD is a power of elasticity. Elasticity is, of course, here, then, of course, concentrated to the power of this equation. As you know, when we are applying this here, elasticity for this equation, delta Q or delta P is the equation. And, of course, when we apply this equation, then we have the elasticity. Therefore, if we have the power of equations, the elasticity always concentrated and used as the elasticity. So for constant elasticity demand curve, elastic is constant and slope falls from 0 to minus infinity along the demand curve. Do you have any question? A constant elasticity versus linear demand curve is illustrated here, as you see. And here is, of course, when it is nonlinear, the curve is illustrated. You see the intersection here is again similar. The constant elasticity demand curve is of course parallelly to the linear demand curve when these intersect each other. Yes, elasticity problem again we have, as I mentioned to you, very important in economy. We have to exercise from the demand side and of course the supply side. When the demand is elastic, creates problem. When the supply side is elastic, then we have another problem because these elasticities position affecting and changing the equilibrium, and of course the seasonal deviation of the economy will be heavily affected, and of course change either is going to move towards to the equilibrium or move away or go away from the equilibrium. Therefore we have to know how the demand and supply elasticity position. Demand tend to more price elastic when there are good substitute for the good, and demand tend to be more price elastic when consumer expenditure in that good is large, and demand tend to be less price elastic when consumer considers the good as a necessity. Therefore, we will look to this example which is given here. Here the between -0 and 0 is supposed to be inelastic, and after 1, which is going to be here laundry detergent to soft drinks, is of course breakfast cereals is also belongs to the inelastic, and above 1, -1 is elastic. Materials or products is supposed to be realized in the market. And for the market for the automobile industry is also given here. As you see, as much as the price up, the elasticity is going to be reduced. Okay, I will stop here. Do you have any question? Do you have any question to me?
Yes, sir. When are we going to have a homework or a test? Connection gone. I cannot hear anything. Hello? Allah Allah.
Kaydı yapıyor muyduk?
Evet hocam.
Stop recording diyelim de.